Okay, I'm going to be going over a little preparation for your quiz for this week, assignment 16, or week 16, assignment number 3. If you want to print this out, feel free to do that. Pause the video as much as you need. The answers are at the last page of this PDF that you print out as well, so you can check everything. I'm not going to go over every single question, so do feel free to, ask some questions through email or come to office hours if you have questions beyond what I go over in this video. So first question is kind of a gimme, just a reminder. So in order to receive credit for this quiz, I need to number each problem and write down all of my work and submit it on Canvas. This is true. You must do this in order to receive credit for this quiz. So on your own piece of paper, number 1. So an example of what you might write for work, you don't have to write work for question number 1, but for question number 2, an example of what you might want to write down is, well, we have here a central angle 136. So the arc here is also 136. So something you might write down is a central angle, or a reason for it. Central angle is equal to the arc. That's it. There's your explanation. And the next question here, we're looking for KL. So I would say that we know a circle is 360 degrees, right? So we're going to subtract 150. We're going to subtract 60, the 2 that we already have here. And what we're left with is 150. So whatever I wrote down in this calculator, that would be an example of what you would write down on your piece of paper that you're showing work for. So we're left with 150, and these 2 angles here are marked as equal, so I would take that 150 and divide it by 2, so I'd get 75. So here we go. On our next question here, with central angles, this one is also a -7 plus 11x. You can see here that these angles are marked as congruent. And we also know that this arc here is going to be equal to this arc here. These are actually we have 2 straight lines here, so they're vertical angles. So you can take 19x plus 7, and you can set it equal to these 2 added together. So when combined, that's going to be -14. And then we've got 11x and 11x plus 22x. Okay. Now, once you solve for x, so you're going to pause this video, take a moment. You're going to get a solution for x. Once you do that, then you are looking for the measure of IEJ. So that is this angle here. So what I would do is you can maybe plug it into this x here. So you can do 19 times x plus 7. Whatever you get for this angle, well, these 2 here, they should add up to 180. So I would just take 180 and subtract whatever you got for this angle. Okay. Let's look on to our next page here. All right, so now on this next page, we have some inscribed angles. So first thing I would notice is we have 108 degrees for this inscribed angle, and it's inscribed to this arc here. So that arc that I've highlighted is double the amount of 108. So that's going to be 216. And then if I know this portion here is 90, well, I would know that the portion, or the question mark piece that's left, would be 216 minus 90. So that's going to be 126 is what's left there. Okay. In our next diagram, there's 2 ways to kind of go about it, and I'll go over both of them with you. First thing you might notice is, okay, here's a 67 degree angle. Well, this arc that it goes to is going to be double. So we can do 67 times 2 would be 134. And then you could take the full circle, which is 360. It's 360. Oh my God. 360, and we're going to subtract the 134 and subtract the 100 to get this portion here, what's left, and that would be 126. Another way to have worked through it is, here we have this arc is 100, so this inscribed angle would be half of that, 50. So you could also have done 180 minus a 50 minus a 67. And that would have given you 63 here, and then you would have doubled it to get this one here. So that would have been 126. Anytime you see a center point and there's a line going through it, you're going to want to assume that that's a diameter. Okay, so this right here is a diameter, meaning this entire arc is a half circle, which is 180. I know if we have 55 degrees here and we double that, that's going to be 110 here. And then I know that these two add up to 180 together, so 180 minus 110, this is going to be 70. And then keep in mind this angle is inscribed to it, so it would be half of 70. And our last one here, we would take 360, I would subtract the 150, I would subtract the 98. So this portion of the circle is going to be 112. And again, remember we have an inscribed angle. So this angle here should be half of that amount. And one more inscribed angle. This time we're solving for a variable first. So just as we said, or as I said earlier, we know this is a diameter, so this is going to be 180. So if we combine 12x and 24x, that would be 36x equals 180. Now, once you know the value for x, divide by 36 on both sides, you're going to want to plug that value of x back in to get wx, the measure of that arc there. Okay. On our next page, we have some angles outside of the circle. So if you have your toolkit filled in, that would be pretty helpful. So remember this formula here is a minus b over 2. So this question mark angle would represent the x. This would represent a, this would represent b. So the farther away arc minus the one that's closer. Now we don't have a number for a, but what I do know, because it says that any lines that appear to be tangent are, so that means this full circle is 360. And if I take 360 and subtract the 120 that's showing up here, this portion would be 240. So we can say x, this outside angle, is equal to 240 minus 120, all divided by 2. So you can take a pause, finish that question. You're going to check it later at the last page of the PDF for this. Here we have an angle that's on the circle, similar to an angle that is inscribed in a circle. It's just going to be half of whatever its arc is. So that question mark, we'll call it x here, is equal to 100 over 2. Okay. Question 12 is set up just like we have question 10. So here is the x, the angle on the outside that we're solving for. We can call this the A, this the B. So it'd be 193 minus 53, all divided by 2. And here we have an angle that's inside a circle. So when our angle is inside the circle, instead of subtracting, we add the arcs. So A plus B, all divided by 2. And we went over that, I believe it's lesson 6, kind of the reason for how we got that formula. If you're still confused about, well, why do we add them and divide by 2? So we're just going to basically be taking 170 plus 50, add those two together, divide by 2. So 220 divided by 2. Question 14. So I would start out by taking 360 and subtracting the 129. That's going to be 231. So your outside angle is just going to be 231 minus the 129, all divided by 2. And same formula here. We've got 159, we're going to subtract 71 and divide by 2. Okay, and we're on our last page here. One more angle question before we get into our segments. So this angle is the outside angle. Here's the A and here's the B. So now our variable is just in a different location. So we would say x, or in this case 52, equals A minus B. So A is 150. B we don't know, so I'm just going to leave it as a B, all divided by 2. Now the first thing I would do maybe on this problem is multiply both sides by 2. So 52 times 2 is 104. Now, if I subtract 150, I am going to get a negative on this side here, but it's going to be a negative 46 equaling negative b. So if I divide by negative 1 on both sides, I'll get positive 46 equals b. So here we go. And we could plug it back into the formula and make sure that that simplifies and works out. Okay, and our last set of problems. This is the new lesson in your packet, page 20. So we know the product of one chord is equal to the product of another chord in a circle. So that means this part here, 10 times 12, should be equal to 15 multiplied with x, the product of the other chord. 15 times x, we can just write as 15x. So here we would do 10 times 12, that's 120, equals 15x. And we'll just divide by 15 on both sides. So x is 8 in this diagram. Same thing here. We have the product of one chord. So 10 times x, that would be one chord. Product is multiplying them together. The product of the other chord, 12 and 15. So 12 times 15 is 180. That would be 10x equaling 180. We could divide by 10 on both sides. And x is 18. And this question here, we're just solving for x, but notice that there's more than one term for some of these. So I have a 6, and that's being multiplied with a negative 2 plus x. So I'm going to put the single term first. Just as a reminder to me that 6 should be multiplying with both things. So the product of one chord is equal to the product of our other chord. 9 multiplied with x minus 4. So I'm going to distribute the 9 to both terms here as well. This is going to be negative 12 plus 6x equals 9x minus 36. So from here, we're just solving for x. So we could subtract a 6x on both sides. Negative 12 equals 3x minus 36. Add 36 to both sides. And then divide by 3. So that should be 24 equals 3x. And I'll let you finish that problem. And our last question here, there's an extra step. Once you solve for x, we're finding the length of a segment. So the product of one chord, doesn't matter which one you start with. So we have a 5x being multiplied with 18 in either order. And then our other chord, since we have one single term, I'll put that in front of our two-termed expression. So we have a 5x, and that's being multiplied with 18. So 5 times 18 is going to be 90x, and then we're going to distribute 20 here. So 20 times 4 is going to be 80x. 20 times 1 is 20. We can subtract 80 on both sides. So 10x equals 20. Divide by 10 on both sides. And x is 2. Now that I know that x is 2, I'm looking for the length of km, which is this line here. So km is going to be 18 plus 5 times 2. So 18 plus 10, and that will give us 28. So good luck on your quiz. Let me know if you have any questions.